Hello, I did a ton of reading for October. There's Empty Shelfie, Spookathon, Victober. Ooh, the fun never ended. So I've had to make a little list for myself of everything that I read. First one was the one with the orange cover. I did some combining. The one with the orange cover I chose was Let's Play White by Cheshire Burke. It's a collection of short stories, very spooky, some magic realism and fantasy in there. I highly recommend this one. I wouldn't say it scared me, but I really enjoyed her imagination. It's made me definitely want to read some other things by her. And yeah, it was a good one. The next, I combined thriller with serial killer from Spookathon and Empty Shelfie. But it's not actually a serial killer book because I'm more interested in how the average person would deal with a murder. And I chose Out by Natsuo Carino. Oh, there's a plane. Hello, plane. Another really good one. I haven't actually finished it yet, as you can see, but I'm definitely going to try and get that finished before the weekend. It deals with the pressure on women, the roles that women are expected to play, and also the pressure on men as well. One of them has a husband and son that's virtually otaku, and it's just about the dark side of Japan, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's dark and very entertaining. And I've already read Grotesque, but I'm going to look out for some more of her stuff too. And next, I combined childhood fear with something with a creepy word in the title, and I chose Hangs a Man by Shirley Jackson. It actually isn't really what I would class as a horror. It's definitely very strange though, and that's one reason why I really enjoyed it. You're kind of right in this girl's imagination, and she's brutally honest, and also I feel like it might be the closest thing that aside from Hunger by Nut Tamsen, which is another good one, that you can almost get close to what it feels like to have a breakdown in literature. She's really spiraling out of control and takes you with her. Your brain feels kind of bombarded by the end of it. It's a really odd experience. Definitely worth reading. Spooky setting and the person, place or thing that scares me I also combined, and for this I chose The Monk by Matthew Lewis. I had so much fun reading this one. I did not expect what I read at all. It apparently at the time critics were really sort of laying into this book, and people were kind of going, oh, I can't believe such a terrible thing exists, and yet it was massively popular. People really wanted it, and I wrote down what one of the critics actually said about it as well. Matthew Lewis is a reckless defiler of the public mind. And I, by coincidence, happened to be listening to an old album called The Downward Spiral, because I saw 9 Inch Nails on Twin Peaks, so I thought, oh yes, I remember them, I'll give them a listen. And I think that album fit the theme of the book really well. It's about a friar who, I think it's set around the 16th century, and he ends up being seduced and going down a dark path. And funnily enough, there were actually still bits that made me very uncomfortable. You'd think in 2017 something written in the 18th century wouldn't be very shocking, but it's almost, what I loved about it is almost like he was looking down at his work and thinking, yeah, there's not enough to offend people in this bit. I'm going to stuff some more. I'm going to put some more terrible things in. And for the time, I think that was really brave. I mean, if you do it now, you'd kind of think it was quite immature, but back then it's like a major thing. So yes, well done. And next with a book for Victober, which was the Victorian. Oh, should stop fidgeting really. The Victorian Readathon, which was nice and comforting in this winter, in the winter months. I combined a gothic and a Scottish author, so I read Jekyll and Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I really enjoyed it, but I can imagine that one of the major pulls of the book back then is, because we know the story so well, everyone knows the story of it, but back then I can imagine that it would be quite exciting to read for the first time, because it's done like a mystery, and they wouldn't have known what the end was going to bring, so it's kind of pieced together through different stories, and then at the end there's the big reveal, so it's kind of like a twist story almost, but just one that everybody knows now. So yes, and I've really enjoyed picking out the most Victorian phrases that really showed Victorian priorities and putting them on Twitter. I put my Twitter in the description so you can have a look at that. Next was The Curse or Spell, and this was actually, I think, the only one I didn't finish. I chose White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. I've read Mr. Fox by her. I do really like Mr. Fox, but this one, it's not that it's bad, because it's really beautifully written. It's almost like a prose poem, but I found myself doing anything other than reading it, and I think that kind of shows that I just wasn't that pulled into the story. I felt very distant. It's almost like seeing a beautiful ballerina in the snow. It's distantly beautiful, but you can't really go near it, or I don't know, something like that. And then there was The Unusual Person, which was Geek Love by Catherine Dunn. I didn't expect the fantastical turn it took, which is, I suppose, a little bit like Carnival, the series. I love Carnival, it's one of my favourites. It's basically about a sideshow, which one of the sideshow, I don't want to say freak, because that's not really what you're meant to say, but anyway, one of them, Arthur, ends up creating his own cult, and I liked that in that they are not shown as victims. If anything, he is a complete bastard. It's the complete opposite. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's very strange, very took some unexpected turns, and maybe went on a little too long for me, but yeah, no, it was good. I enjoyed it. And the Paranormal, I picked a book of modern ghost stories, and I didn't actually get to read this yet, but I have got a plane journey coming up on Saturday, so I will be reading it then. I think it's something like 12 hours. But yeah, I've read a lot of Victorian ghost stories and listened to a lot of Victorian ghost stories, but I picked this because I probably haven't read a lot of these. There's Daphne du Maurier, which is a favourite of mine, and M.R. James, so yes, I can't wait. Okay, I think that's about it, actually. Yes. So that was my readathons of October. I somehow managed to get through 3 of them, kind of. But I'm one of the hosts for Empty Shelfie in December, so I'll see you there on Twitter. Bye.